right, fantastic. Well, welcome in, friends. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you guys have a glass of red wine or some champagne, and if you don't, you do have some time. If you want to head on over, grab a glass and a charcuterie cup. How fun. But we're here for our book launch. How cool does our new logo look? We just got it last week. Lots of going back and forth, but we finally came to a pretty cool one over here. So I'm Shelby. I'm the Education Justice Organizer for Oklahoma Appleseed and Advance Oklahoma's Kids. So with our steering committee and our team, we are so thankful that you guys came here. Just thankful for our media for attending. And if this is just so great and this ruminates with you and our ideas are something that you want to have live on in perpetuity, we got Titus live streaming back there as well. That'll be on our website. So I'm going to introduce to you our MC. Colleen McCarty is an attorney and executive director at Oklahoma Appleseed Center for Law and Justice, where she leads efforts to reform criminal justice, education justice, survivors justice, and many more. Colleen holds her JD from University of Tulsa College of Law, where she's a published author. I found her books.
No, you didn't. Put them away.
And editor. Amazon. Noting major publications When Voters' Intent Backfires, and the second one, Oklahoma State Question 780, Reform and Resistance. With a background in law and a history of bipartisan advocacy, she has played a pivotal role in passing significant reforms, including medical parole reform in 2020, and we all know Oklahoma Survivors Act in 2024. She has served as Policy Council Deputy Director in Oklahomans for Criminal Justice Reform. She's an education enthusiast. Please welcome your Master of Ceremonies and my boss, Colleen McCarty.
Can we get a small, loving, can you guys hear me? Okay, I can't hear myself at all. Small but loving round of applause for Shelby. This is an amazing event. She's put so much work into it. Thank you so much, Shelby. I'm not going to be up here as much as you would typically see me at an event like this because we have amazing speakers that have come to talk to you about the future of education in Oklahoma. We all know that our Oklahoma education system and in our public school system is not as well supported as it should be. Our teachers aren't supported, our students certainly aren't supported, and we are here as Oklahoma Appleseed asking for us to change course and support our schools, support our teachers, and that's what tonight is all about, and we hope that you guys will join us in this plan that we're trying to put together. And I'm going to have the best planner and the best researcher that I know come and talk to you more about how he's going to put this plan together and how all of us are going to put this plan together. And I'm going to introduce you to our Director of Research and Strategic Impact, Dr. David Blatt. He joined Oklahoma Appleseed in August 2023 as the Director of Research and Strategic Impact. He brings with him a wealth of experience in public policy, including 10 years leading the Oklahoma Policy Institute. He has also served as Policy Director for Community Action Project of Tulsa, Fiscal Analyst for the Oklahoma State Senate, and a lecturer at the University of Oklahoma, and holds degrees from the University of Alberta, McGill, and Cornell University. Thank you so much, David, for telling us why we're here tonight.
So, thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I'm David Blatt, and most of my work over the past 15 months or so has focused on education justice issues. And in doing this work, two things have become clear to me, along with my colleagues at Appleseed and our Advance Oklahoma Kids Coalition. One is that over the past 2 years in particular, but really over an even longer period of time, supporters of public education in Oklahoma have been in a defensive crouch. The political rhetoric around public schools often seems to be overwhelmingly hostile. We hear constantly about failing schools, falling test scores, out-of-touch bureaucracies, and woke agendas. And the suggested solutions always seem to involve shifting more resources from public to private schools and demanding more from teachers and students without additional resources and support. This often leaves public education advocates discouraged and demoralized. But the other thing that has become clear is that it doesn't have to be this way. Despite all the attacks, Oklahomans across the state, in urban, suburban, and rural areas, recognize and value public schools as the cornerstone of our communities and our democracy. Oklahomans remain deeply committed to the core promises of public education. Schools that serve all children, regardless of income, race, immigration, or disability status, that eliminate barriers, and that create opportunities to be successful students, productive workers, and engaged citizens. Just 6 years ago, tens of thousands of Oklahomans rallied behind our public school teachers when they waged a 2-week walkout aimed at ensuring higher teacher pay. Even today, behind the confrontational and divisive headlines, serious policy leaders at the state and local levels are pursuing policies aimed at solving the real challenges facing our schools. So these realizations form the basis of the Better Outcomes for Oklahoma Kids, the book initiative. It is meant as a way to change the narrative around public education in Oklahoma by bringing a wide range of stakeholders together to both celebrate the successes of our public schools and propose a path for meaningful, positive policy change for the years ahead. The initiative is guided in part by memories of House Bill 1017, the landmark education reform legislation enacted under Republican Governor Henry Bellman and Democratic legislators in 1990. HB 1017 was bold, sweeping, and forward-looking. We are clearly in a very different political moment compared to 1990, but our hope is that there will again be Oklahomans willing to roll up their sleeves and work to develop an education agenda, not just for next year, but for the next 5 and 10 years that most Oklahomans can get behind. So what we are looking to do over the next year is to build that policy agenda that will lead to better outcomes for Oklahoma kids. We're starting by inviting Oklahomans to respond to a short survey that is available online that asks you to identify what you see as strengths, challenges, and priorities for public education. Based on that initial feedback, we plan to hold a series of events around Oklahoma, listening sessions, community forums, town halls, as well as one-on-one conversations with education thought leaders to flesh out ideas on some of the topics identified in the survey. We want to include all those with a stake in public education, from parents and students to teachers, administrators, and school board members, along with education advocacy groups, philanthropists, past and current elected officials, and the business community. Ultimately, we expect to produce a report next fall that lays out a dozen or so of the most promising ideas that have emerged from our consultations that we hope all our partners in this project can promote and encourage elected officials and candidates to support beginning in 2026. Ultimately, our success will depend on the involvement of Oklahomans who are willing to help us write the book for what better schools and better outcomes for Oklahoma kids look like and how we can get there. We're excited that several people we're looking to share their visions and help us develop ours are here with us this evening, and I can't wait to hear what they have to say. So, I'll turn it back to you.
David. It's exciting. I think the exciting thing is that for a long time, we haven't had anything to fight for. We've had a lot of things that we've had to fight against. And it causes us to be divided. It causes us to lose hope. It causes us to be exhausted. But when we can all unite behind a shared vision that belongs to the whole community, we can't be beat. So I'm excited about that. Unfortunately, one of our speakers, Erica Wright with the Oklahoma Rural Schools Coalition, could not make it tonight. She had a family emergency, but we extend our gratitude to her. She's a great foundational partner for our coalition, and we love her very much. Sorry, Erica, we miss you. Our next speaker is Kyle Reynolds, Dr. Kyle Reynolds. He is the current Sealing? I should have asked you that earlier. Sealing Public School Superintendent and former superintendent of Woodward Public Schools, where he spent 28 years as a teacher, IT director, and administrator, a recipient of the 2023 Medal for Excellence in Elementary and Secondary Education. He recently earned a doctorate from Southern Nazarene University with a dissertation titled Implementing Multi-Tiered Systems of Support in Public School to Improve Student Mental Health and Behavior. On top of being a superintendent, he works as an education consultant with KBR Consulting. Welcome, Kyle.
Thank you. Greetings from Northwest Oklahoma. Interestingly enough, I leave here this evening, I go to Durant, so I will have seen 3/4 of the state by the time I get to bed. But it's a blessing to be here, and it's just an honor to stand with this group and the folks that are in this group, my esteemed colleagues. And David, I'm not sunburned today. I'm the guy whose phone went off while you were talking. I apologize for that. You know, when I got the call that we're going to talk about how we envision a better education for our students, that's not hard for me to reflect on quickly, to think about the things that I see in the future that would make things great. And really the situation that we're in, we've gone from this governor's report back in the late 80s to a nation at risk, which really perpetuated and has helped perpetuate this false narrative for 35 plus years that our schools are failing. The fact is that we've rigged accountability systems and we keep moving the goalposts so that it appears that our schools are failing. And what that does is that makes us not feel so bad when we push public money over private pockets. So when I look to the future and think about how could we do things better, I see a time when we can move away from the factory model to something that makes sense for the 21st century, something that's personalized for our students and is not predicated on the idea that they grow, learn, and mature at the same time, at the same pace. I see us moving away from a compliance-based system to a competency-based system where you're not successful just because you jumped through the right hoops. We have many students that are really good at jumping through the hoops, and they come out of our public schools into colleges and the workforce ill-prepared. I see us moving away from seat time to content mastery, where students can proceed through their educational goals at their own pace and not be restricted by the number of hours that their rear end is in a chair in a school building, in a brick and mortar school building. I see our schools being technology rich, where our students are surrounded by the latest, greatest technology, and we're equipping them with the skills that they need to leverage technology for their future, for jobs that don't even exist today. Can you imagine the jobs that will exist when this young man graduates high school? Because we couldn't imagine 12 years ago what those kindergartners were going to walk into today, that's for sure. I envision our schools where our teachers have the ability to establish a relationship-rich environment. I think one of the key things that I've learned over the years is that our students don't care what we know until they know that we care. And that foundational component of teachers having the time, the luxury of time to establish those relationships, to get to know their students better, to help them work through their academic goals is paramount. I see us having a system that is SEL-centered, social emotional learning, a system that allows us to help our students overcome the traumas that they've gone through. We know our Oklahoma students have higher proportionate ACE scores than almost anywhere around the country. And the interesting thing is we know that if we can help our students overcome trauma, we can fix a lot of things. If we invest in helping our students become hopeful and resilient, it solves our education problems because they'll be in school more, they'll learn more. It solves our workforce problems. It solves a lot of our healthcare problems if we can establish an environment where social emotional learning is important, and maybe we can break the cycle of generational trauma and generational ACEs. I just think together that these changes will transform education from a restrictive one-size-fits-all environment into a supportive, adaptable, and skills-driven model that's designed to meet the diverse needs of today's students for tomorrow's jobs. Thank you.
Kyle, can you be everyone's superintendent?
I probably have a prize.
Well, that was amazing. Next, we're going to hear from Ashley Phillipson. Ashley got her start in education as a reading teacher and is now the executive director of Impact Tulsa, a nonprofit working to ensure that over 100,000 Tulsa youth are on a path to economic mobility by 2030. With over 15 years of experience in cross-sector collaboration, she has led transformative initiatives, including the Mayor's Office of Tulsa, and is recognized for her evidence-based success in advancing inclusive government and community impact. Hold on. I get to read the bios. The bios can be read, right? Impact Tulsa was recognized as one of Obama Foundation's My Brother's Keeper Alliance model communities, and her nuanced understanding of cultural dynamics inform her educational advocacy. Ashley and Impact Tulsa were founding members of Advance Oklahoma's Kids, and we're happy and proud to welcome Ashley here tonight.
Very much. Thank you. Oh, I don't know if this will.
I think you have to be on
Okay,
that side
good.
and talk
Didn't know if
closer
this
to the
mic would react to me being so close. Good evening, everybody. How are you all doing tonight? Good. It's good to see you all here in the audience. Hi, Mr. Bright. And then folks who are joining online. Really grateful to Dr. Blatt for considering Impact Tulsa, myself to be able to share our dream for education in Oklahoma as this statewide conversation is kicking off. And I must say I'm super excited that it is a statewide conversation, because if you know anything about Impact Tulsa, you know we love collective impact. We are a backbone organization. We do not provide direct programming. We bring people together across sectors, across organizations, and even more so now across factions to ensure that all students in Tulsa County, no matter where they're born, no matter their zip code, any of their circumstances, is a barrier to their opportunity and access for economic mobility. I know it's a lot of words, but we are obsessed with making sure we create the enabling conditions with our partners so every young person is afforded an opportunity to lead a choice-filled future. So, thank you for the introduction. Don't have to go too much into my background, but I did want to just share a few thoughts in my time, and hopefully you can keep me. I don't know where she went. Okay, I'll try to time myself. So Impact Tulsa, we are a cradle to career partnership. We work with partners in the birth through post-college age to ensure economic mobility. And I want to share something. We believe that by 2030, 100,491 Tulsa County youth will be on a path to economic mobility as a result of over 110 partners signing up to make sure that that's the case. Quantifiably, that is 15,000 more young people on a path than are currently, basically the students in our system now. And Impact Tulsa, prior to or during the pandemic, what we do is we provide actionable data insights. The city of Tulsa rallied then staff, I was on staff at the city then, to say, hey, we're going remote. We have students who don't have internet access. We have the Child Equity Index, which allowed us to use data to pinpoint households where students didn't have internet access. We brought together over 40 partners, some in this room, to work with Cox and AT&T to think through getting hotspots out. That is one example of our reactive stance, right? We want to think through how do we create the civic infrastructure, the policies, the practices, the resources, and the power shifts so that we can be more resilient when those shocks and stressors come. So again, why I'm super compelled by this idea of a proactive strategy. I mentioned in my bio, we are My Brother's Keeper model community, and I mentioned 110 partners. When we got that designation in 2023, we were charged with creating population-level strategies to ensure kids are kindergarten ready. Data shows, there's a Georgetown study out there, that students who enter an equality pre-K program, which we offer that in Tulsa County, are more likely to be reading by 3rd grade. They are performing better on standardized tests than students who didn't do pre-K, so it's a plug to consider pre-K. And we're looking at how do we expand that, right? How do we get people to take advantage of this free public resource, because pre-K is not universal everywhere. We are thinking about 3rd grade reading, middle grade math, figuring out how to get more high school students in internships, apprenticeships, dual enrollment. And then once they acquire those, they're more likely to graduate and choose a post-secondary path that works for them. So that is a little bit about us. You can, I want to go to my dreams for the future. Why I love Impact Tulsa is policy. My vision for schools, make sure that we have policies that address transportation. We know that chronic absenteeism is a huge issue. How do we improve our transit so that students and families can get to school? We see data that shows there are a lot of zero and no car or 0 and 1 car households. And our state statute says that if you are a mile and a half away from your school or within your school, you have to get to school outside of a bus unless you have, bonds and suburban districts. So what does that look like? Also, we know housing is a huge barrier to student stability. So my dream looks like, how do we advance this affordable housing and accessible housing for families so students have access to homes and aren't disrupted by evictions, which is a huge cause of chronic absenteeism here. So my headline there is legislation that supports wraparound services, because it's not enough to just say the teacher or the principal or the curriculum is the unit of change. What happens outside of school dictates how a student comes to us at school. And I will stop there because I'm not sure about my time there. Thank you so much, and hope to, oh, I'm good? I have like 30 more seconds or a minute? Okay. Sorry, I normally start a timer. So definitely that, and then the biggest thing that excites me about this statewide initiative is reimagining workforce pathways for our state. You mentioned, Dr. Reynolds, the workforce. How might we redesign schools and how business corporations, the chamber, interacts with schools so that it's not a school designed for 110 years ago, but schools designed for 2050, schools designed for 2060. Schools would look drastically different if we could think through redesign. So that is something, that is a dream I have. What does a school that is a hub for community, a place for students that addresses their traumas and sets them on a path that equips them to be our future? And I'm super excited that this is happening. Impact Tulsa is behind this all the way, and we will do whatever we can with our partners to make sure that this is a public-informed agenda. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Just a few short years ago, and David's going to get on me about this, but Oklahoma was 17th in the nation for education, for public education. And today, we are 49th. We have fallen quite a ways. And there's a lot of reasons for that. There are a lot of systemic and political and other socioeconomical reasons for that. But if policy can get us to 49, policy can get us to number 1. And people vote policy. People vote policy. They don't vote candidate. They don't vote party. And you can talk to me about that after if you disagree. But I firmly believe that people in 2024 are ready to vote on people who are well-informed and speak on policy and who have a plan. So our next speaker is Rebecca Peterson. Rebecca is the 2023 National Teacher of the Year and Teacher Leadership Specialist at Union Public Schools. Rebecca is a passionate math educator who believes in the power of stories to transform teaching and learning. She took a year away from the classroom to complete her year of service and is hoping to take all of what she learned back into the classroom next year. In her 16 years of experience, Rebecca has dedicated herself to highlighting the good in education, championing the importance of joy and connection in the classroom, and advocating for students, teachers, and communities alike. Welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you. Hello. How are we doing? See, we'll still stay. Well, about a year and a half ago, I read 7 words that quite literally took my breath away. You are now entering the West Wing. I was ushered into the Oval Office with my husband, Brett, and our son, Jonas, who are both with me here today. And as we spoke to the president and the first lady, I tried to take in like every square inch of that room, humbled to be both an immigrant and a proud American to be standing in that space where so many, really countless, profound decisions for our country have been made. But maybe my most cherished memory of that day was when our son, 7 at the time, looked me in the eyes and said, "That was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for you, Mom, but not for me." Because I'm going to be a Teacher of the Year one day, too. And the remarkable thing about that statement was he had never talked about being a teacher before that day. And I share this with his permission to say that this is what happens when our kids see the profession elevated. They say, "I want in, too." They say, "I want to make a difference, too. I want to make an impact, too." And so the question then becomes, how do we create the sense of elevation for the entire profession, right? And what teachers all across our state and our nation have told me is we just want respect and appreciation restored to our profession. Teaching is hard work. And teaching is beautiful work. Teaching is rebellious hope on full display. We are in the field of preparing the next generation of the workforce and also preparing the next generation of human beings, right? An economist puts it this way. She says, the jobs of the past were about muscles. Today, they're about brains, but in the future, they'll be all about the heart. But to prepare those hearts and those minds takes extreme skill. You have to be incredibly intelligent, incredibly socially and emotionally strong. And the thing is that all high-paying jobs want those same things, right? And so if we want to restore respect and appreciation to the profession, we have to put our money where our mouth is. We have to pay teachers like the professionals they are. Yeah. We cannot keep relying on altruism alone to fill teacher voids. Nationally, teachers take a 20% cut compared to their counterparts who also have 4-year degrees. That disparity increases to 30% as teachers gain more experience. In our state, a 6-year teacher has less buying power now than they did when they started 6 years ago because our step increases don't currently keep up with inflation. So let's start there, right? Let's start by making sure our teachers get paid more every year and not less. Let's make sure our teachers can afford to teach and pay for daycare. Let's make sure our teachers have opportunities to grow so they can move up without moving out of the classroom. And let's make sure we make this vocation sustainable. Let's give our teachers what they are begging for, which is more time. The thing is that to do this job well takes more time, right? It takes more than just 8 to 4, Monday through Friday, right? We need time to do all that goes into teaching. We need time to do things like reflect, plan, grade, collaborate, to dive into IEPs, LIEPs, 504s, to contact parents and guardians of kids who are chronically absent, tardy, or failing. We need time to write recommendation letters, competencies, lesson plans, and even curriculum, right? I keep thinking, sorry, you asked a math teacher to come talk, so I keep thinking about this formula for pressure, right? Pressure is force over area. And I think we just keep adding force and force and force, and we keep asking teachers to do more and more and more, and these things, most of them are good and important things, right? But we have not expanded area to compensate. In other words, we have not increased the paid, protected time teachers need to do all that extra, right? We cannot do all these things on contract time. I will say it again, this job cannot be done from 8 to 4, Monday through Friday, because to teach is so much more than showing up when kids are in the building. To teach well takes so much more time to do all those things that happen before kids come, right? And so we have to give teachers time. We cannot rely on altruism alone. We are at pressure maximum. You and I, we know education is liberation, right? But as an Iranian American woman, I stand acutely aware that liberty for us all is no guarantee, but rather it's a product of a nation's people insisting we belong to each other, just like Mother Teresa said we did, right? And this is the good news. We can belong to each other and be different. We can belong to each other and disagree. We can belong to each other the way my students have taught us we can. Teachers, we are the ones carrying that banner of belonging. We are the ones carrying that mission that every single kid is in, no matter the color of their skin, zip code, or gender, no matter their socioeconomic standing, religious affiliation, or immigration status. All are welcome, all have a seat at the table, all voices get equal representation. That's the heartbeat of our country, right? Public education is for all of us, but great public schools come down to one thing: great teachers. And it is time we pay our teachers like the future of our state depends on them, because it does.
That was so inspiring. Thank you so much. Well, that was our last speaker for the evening. We wanted to keep it short and sweet so you guys can get home, take care of what you need to take care of at home, whatever you got to do. I have some things I have to tell you about before you leave. So you can take the survey that David was talking about. It's on one of the QR codes at the back of the room. We really want this plan to be a plan that belongs to the community. It's very politically safe right now for people in Oklahoma to vote against the interests of public education. And it's our goal, and everyone in this room, I hope's goal, to make it politically unsafe. We have to let them know it is not appropriate to remove the fabric of the American experience, which I consider to be public schools. This is not a partisan issue. It is not a political issue. It is an issue for the future of our state. It is an issue for our children, and it is something that touches all of us, whether we have kids in public school or not. And so please take the survey. We want to hear from you, and if you want to get involved with us, we're going to need volunteers, we're going to need partners, we're going to need places to have these town halls, we're going to need schools and teachers to help us participate in those roundtables. And to make this a real community plan, we need to touch as many Oklahomans as possible over the next 10 months or so. So I know you all want to help us do that. There's journals back there for everyone, and inside the journal you can find a link to our legislative starter kit. It also has social media links, and that will help you stay connected for future town halls and sign up for volunteer opportunities. Plus, it's a really cool journal. It has the Appleseed logo on it. So now we have 15 minutes for Q&A. I wanted to facilitate the Q&A, but you can ask a question to any of the speakers who are here if you want. So hit me with those cues. Anybody want to know what you're doing here? Why am I here? Yeah.
That's a great question. I just want to thank our teachers. I think I see teachers as leaders in the crucible classroom where action takes place, where education takes place. They must have an active role in this. They must. They must. They're on the ground and the front line.
Absolutely.
I consider them community leaders also.
Yes.
We see a lack of collaboration. My classroom, no, it's our classroom. We have to change that. And what I've seen over the years, since I've been involved, is the lack of interrogation of the mindset that has set this in motion over generations. If we do not get to that and understand and connect dots in terms of what education was, what it was intended to be, the politics of it, etc., those root causes will not go away. So I'd like to see and hear more about that, because all that you described are many times just signs and symptoms. We need to know the root causes so that we understand what our job is today, presently, and in the future. Because if not, we don't find that out, then what we do now becomes the end, and it's not. Work in terms of a worldview, in terms of pedagogy, is future-oriented. So has to be our solutions. I look forward to this, been involved with education here in Tulsa since November 1987.
Nice.
I can tell you a lot of stories.
So you've seen a lot.
I've seen a lot and have written a lot and would like to share it with you.
I want to hear.
But it is very important that we don't get lost in inequities, et cetera, because don't get me wrong, we have to deal with that. But inequities are not the root cause, they are the result of. And we have to be able to distinguish that. We need a compelling vision, mission, and what end in mind do we have for those kiddos that walk across the stage? What kind of habits of the heart, habits of the mind, dispositions that we have to instill in them, how to work with each other, etc. This is a very multi-layered, overlapping issue,
Yes.
and we have to be very careful because we can pick up the old baggage if we're not careful.
And that's why I think we're here tonight. We want to invite you guys to be visionary. We want to invite you to be creative. We want to invite you to be hopeful. I know it's kind of a sad maybe time to feel hope, but you can microdose hope, as Brene Brown says. And this is a good place to start. I think a lot of the things that we've seen play out over the last few months come down to the fact that there has been a systemic disinvestment in our education system, and it's intentional. It's intentional, to your point, sir. And it's been happening under our noses, and it's been happening where people thought we couldn't see, and now we're seeing the impacts of that. And if we don't do something now, today in 2024, then it will just continue to decline, and we'll continue to see the impacts of that. And we won't be able to bring businesses to Oklahoma. We won't be able to bring jobs. We won't be able to bring technology here. And you know what happens when we start to lose those kinds of opportunities is things just get more and more desperate. And so at Appleseed, people ask me, why are you a criminal lawyer working on education? And the reason for me is because so many of my clients that end up on the criminal justice side could have benefited so strongly from a well and robust investment in their education. That journey into the criminal system started so much earlier than what people think. And in Oklahoma, we're all too happy to invest in prisons and in probation and in all these other things where we're not investing in our students. And if we could just flip those two numbers, I think we would see a huge change in how our state is. It would be more vibrant, it would be happier, it would be healthier. So any other questions before we go? That wasn't really an answer to your question, but I'm just
I
rambling.
don't think I asked.
I don't know what your question was.
On a soapbox now.
That's okay.
And we'll be available to talk.
Yeah, we'll be around to talk for a few more minutes, and we really appreciate everyone for coming. Please grab some food, grab a drink, talk. You're among friends here. I think we all want the best for our kids. And so thank you guys so much for coming, and I hope to see you again.